Choose joy, not pain. Pain is the result of the gradual crystallization of our choices. What is crystallization? Well, how many of us have ever watched our mothers make Jell-O? Remember Jell-O, Jello? You start it with hot water, and you start it with these colored, like Kool-Aid looking flavors, right? You mix them in the hot water, right? And then and they were liquid when you mixed all of that up with the hot water, right? But then you put it in the fridge, right? And your mother said, go out to play, because it was 2 PM. She was getting sick of looking at your face. So she said, I thought, that's just me, not you. and so you came back at about 4:30, and you looked in the fridge, and what seemed to be liquid then wasn't liquid anymore. It seemed to have taken form. It crystallized, right? Anybody here ever been to Corning Glass Works in the Corning Glass Museum? Saw them blow glass? First it was liquid, right? Then they blew it and made it into this beautiful vase. And then they let it cool and it became solid. It crystallized. Well, guess what? Our thoughts and our choices crystallize into form in the same way that Jell-O crystallizes into form, in the same way that glass crystallizes into form. And pain is the result of the gradual crystallization of our choices. Let's unpack this a little bit more. A child doesn't get spoiled because parents give it ice cream instead of vegetables one day. A child gets spoiled as this pattern becomes frequent enough to get crystallized, and it creates habits and expectations and a whole energy of its own that influences the child's character and development. This is a gradual process, and both the parent and the child are participants. Anybody still with me? A partner does not become abusive, aggressive, or disrespectful because of one incident. A partner becomes abusive, aggressive, and disrespectful because little by little, a series of microaggressions go unheeded, and we allow ourselves to be gaslit by allowing the partner to cause us to think, oh, you're too sensitive, when we call out a microaggression. And both partners support the crystallization of this pattern, which becomes a hallmark of an abusive situation. And one that we're all experiencing right now. A dictator doesn't become a dictator because of one big power grab. A dictator becomes a dictator because he is allowed to gradually erode the guardrails that constrain his behavior until those guardrails no longer hold. And others allow him to do this little by little until there's nothing that stands between the dictator and his unchecked power. Now, I'm not political, so I'm not naming any names, but does anybody know what I'm talking about here? All right? In all three examples, we see that the pain that this might cause is the result of the gradual crystallization of our choices, both individually and collectively. And a painful outcome is the result of these choices. Now, these experiences of pain, which is not just physical pain, but it might be emotional pain, discomfort, discontent, self-denial, difficulty, or struggle. These are all forms of pain, and they are all forms caused or supported by micro choices. So you might ask, Because I know some of us are like, well, why would I make these micro choices? And some of us are already beating ourselves up because we're beginning to feel like, well, I made some micro choices that caused me pain. Why did I do that? Well, everything is a God lesson God would have us learn. Here's your first opportunity for a message. Anybody want to look up, just Google A Course in Miracles, all things are a lesson God would have me learn. And the first person that comes up with A Course in Miracles lesson 198 gets a free message and puts it in the comments. Oops, I'm sorry. Whoever puts 198 in the comments gets their first message, gets a message, all right? Shay, you won. All things are lessons God would have me learn. Our soul, based on our soul contracts, our eternal nature, which believes that this 70 to 90 years on the earth is a drop in the bucket, and most of our experience is blissful at union with God, made a choice to come to the earth to experience this lesson so that the small part of our consciousness that needed correction could be corrected. So it's all good. Here's another opportunity for a message. Let me not judge anything God has created. It's in A Course in Miracles. Whoever looks this one up gets a message. Let me not judge anything created by God. All right. So let's not judge anything, but let's explore this a little bit more. Why did we make these micro choices? We made these micro choices because of errors in our thinking. We had errors in our thinking, which resulted in errors in our vision, which created illusions. Now, this is very important because another thing that people don't understand is when A Course in Miracles talks about an illusion, they don't understand that an error in thinking creates an error in vision, which creates an illusion. An error in thinking is this. We believe that God is a cruel, sadistic, remote, and condemnatory because that's what we have been taught, that God is somewhere on a cloud, that God is sadistic and cruel, judging us and condemning us for every little thing, smiting us and moting us and punishing us and withholding from us. And we have believed that the world was a wicked, hostile canvas upon which God's wrath was written. In other words, we have believed that God was an angry, vengeful, punitive God, and God painted this picture of the world simply so the world could punish us. And we've believed ourselves to be hapless, helpless victims of the world. This is an error in thinking. And this error in thinking caused us to see ourselves as less than and punishable, caused to see God as remote and punitive, and caused to see the world as a canvas, as a funhouse for pain. And we made micro choices based on these errors in thinking. What might be an example of a micro choice that we have made? And let's go back to some of the examples that we used before. I'm not lovable. So if my lover treats me unlovable, then it must be okay because there must be something wrong with me. That's a micro choice we might have made when we allowed a microaggression that ultimately crystallized into abuse. We didn't know any better. Forgive ourselves, for we knew not what we did. Amen? What might be another micro error in thinking that caused micro choices? I do not feel like I'm good enough because somebody when I was 8 told me I was not good enough. So I will not ask for the raise or promotion that I believe I deserve because somehow I don't feel like I believe it. And that crystallizes into us being unfulfilled, unrewarded, or unheralded. These are errors in thinking that ultimately crystallize micro choices that we make, that ultimately crystallized into painful, uncomfortable, unpleasant, or untenable situations. Is anybody with me? So, what if these were the crystallizations of micro choices? And what if we could choose again, again, and again, and again to choose joy instead of pain? Well, guess what? Just like we made all those micro choices that moved us into situations that we do not enjoy, we can correct this by making micro choices that move us into situations that cause us joy instead. Just because we made micro choices in the past that moved us into situations that caused us pain, we can make choices right now that move us into joy in this present moment. And how can we make new choices? Well, we made those micro choices based on misinformation. We can make new, and they moved us into pain. We can make new choices based on new information that can move us into joy. And what are some of the new choices that we can make that would move us into joy instead? Well, remember when we made the micro choice of God, of seeing God as cruel, sadistic, remote, and no longer with us? What if we made a choice to experience God differently? What if we made a choice based on A Course in Miracles? And these are not message worthy because I speak of these all the time. Lessons 101 and 103 through 103, where we say God's will for me is perfect happiness. What if we saw God differently as a benevolent, beneficent force for love and as a benevolent, beneficent source for love? What if we saw, and here's one for a message, there is no cruelty in God and none in me? What if we no longer saw God as cruel and punishing? And what if we believe that lesson in A Course in Miracles that says, there is no cruelty in God and none in me? What if we began to not only experience that through meditation, where we meditated and we felt the love of God, where we meditated and felt the presence of God, where we meditated and felt the embrace of God, where we meditated and when they said, and when whoever's leading your meditation said, breathe in the love of God, we started breathing in the love of God and we started feeling differently. What if we meditated and the person that said, breathe in the presence of God and breathe as if God is placing a blanket of love around your shoulders? What if we actually did that so often that we began to feel it? Then we would begin to perceive God differently. We would no longer perceive God as apart from us, but we would perceive God as a part of us. And we would begin to perceive God within us. And we would begin to feel God's love. And we would begin to know God's love. And we would begin to be God's love. And guess what? This is not difficult because you already did it. You did that in the first half hour of this session, did you not? Did anybody feel God's love in the first half hour of this session? Let me know. Show me your hands. If you felt God's love, if you felt God as present, if you felt God as around you, and if you felt God as within you, you have already done this. You made a micro choice that brought you joy instead of pain. And you can do this over and over and over again. It is a micro choice that becomes a habit. It is a micro habit that becomes a tendency. It is a micro tendency that becomes a frequency. It is a frequency that then becomes a pattern. It is a frequency that begins to crystallize. It is a frequency that becomes your character. It is a frequency that becomes your new being. So your new being becomes the frequency of God. Amen. How many of us would like to continually invoke and feel and experience the love of God to the point where that love and that grace would become such a part of us that it would become crystallized as our essential energy? that it would become crystallized as our essential identity, that the patterns of love within us would become so clear that they have no choice but to draw love to us. For such is the law of attraction. We can do this because you've already experienced making micro choices to do this, and you can do this over and over and over again until the pattern becomes a habit, till the habit crystallizes into your being and your essence and your character and your experience, and that influences your world and turns the pain that you may have experienced into the joy of the love of God that moves through you. You can do this. I can do this. We can do this. And so those holy instants, because any one of us here may have already experienced a holy instant where instantaneously or in one instance. Anybody here ever have one of those chills? I call them spirit chills, where you just go, hmm. Anybody ever have a spirit chill? Hmm. Where all of a sudden, in an instant, the chill of love, the chill of light, the chill of transformation becomes so clear that you know you've been lifted, that you know you've been touched. This is a holy instant. But the good news is, this holy instant can become a holy constant as we continually make micro choices for our joy instead of pain. Is anybody with me? All right. Well, when that happens, it not only changes us internally, but it changes our world. Because one of the key laws of metaphysics is the law of inner cause and outer effect. So when we feel the love of God, when we vibrate with the love of God, when that is our inner energy, our inner patterning, our inner crystallization, and our inner emanation, it emanates out into the world and it creates a different effect in the world. When we are loving, the world becomes loving. When we feel abundant, the world shows its abundance to us. When we feel beautiful, the world reflects its beauty to us. That is our inner cause as light, love, beauty, grace, peace, joy, and power. And the world shows up in reflection of that. As Ernest Holmes said, the world is simply an objective reflector of our consciousness. So the inner cause creates an outer effect. A Course in Miracles lesson 190 says, the world does not have power over you. It is simply an effect of your thinking. Now think about that. Because quite often we have thought the world was this oppressive place, placing burdens on our shoulders. But what if the world had no power over us? What if the world were simply an effect of our thinking? If we changed our thinking, we could change our world. And you have already proved that you can do this. For you had a holy instant 30 minutes ago. You can have a holy constant where your inner energy is constantly reflected to you in an outer world of peace, harmony, accommodation, abundance, ease, joy, and fulfillment. You can do this, I can do this, we can do this. We can choose joy instead of pain. And this is how we do it, through these series of micro choices. And where we may have seen ourselves as flawed, where we may have seen ourselves as helpless, hapless, victims of the world, we can see ourselves as beloved of God. I am the beloved child of God. Let me tell you something. Let me make a bet with you, actually. If you sat in light and love one morning, if you sat in light and love one morning and immersed yourself in the light and love of God by saying, God, I let you in. And if you did that to each of your Shakti, and then if you did that through tapping through each of your meridians. Now I know what I'm talking about because we just did this in one of my classes. if you opened each of your Shakti to the energy and light of God, and then if you tapped to let that energy into all of your meridians, and if you gave the power of the word form by using your words to say, God, I am your beloved child. And then you went out into the world as the beloved child of God with that energy, with that vibration, with that patterning, with that emanation, and with that crystallization. I guarantee you, you will have one of the best days of your life. Anybody want to put me to the test? If you do this and you come out, you come back and tell me, Reverend Webb, I had a bad day, I'll give you a free reading. Amen. I'm giving you a challenge right now. Tell me what your day looks like versus your other days. If you earnestly do this, what you have done is you have made a choice. What you have done is you have made a choice into who you are, whose you are. And you have said, in essence, I choose to be the beloved of God, and I choose the joy of God instead of the pain my ego is cooked up. The ego being the part of us that believes we're human, the part of us that believes we have failed, the part of us that believes something's wrong with us, the part of us that does not know that we are perfect for God's purpose, no matter how we were made, no matter how we were born, no matter what we experienced, no matter who we are, no matter what we look like, no matter what's in our bank account, no matter what's in our garage, no matter what's on our resume. You are the beloved of God, and that shall never change. And as we know ourselves as beloved of God, irrespective of anything in our outer world, our world must respond to the beloved of God. There's a lesson in the Course in Miracles, and here's another opportunity for yet another message. There's a lesson in the Course in Miracles. This one will be hard to find because it's part of a lesson. The world bends to the will of the beloved Son of God. The world bends to the will of the beloved Son of God. Google it, find out what lesson it is. Because what that is saying is the world must bend to your vibration. The world must bend to your energy, for the world is simply a reflector of your energy. For as you know yourself to be the beloved of God, the world must reflect that and open its doors to you. The world bends to the beloved Son of God. Now, you may say this is all nice and good in theory, and this will be all nice for a day, but I've been in this other consciousness of pain for years and years and years. So is it going to take me as many years to get out of this as it took me to get into this? The answer is no. The answer is no. Because God is the accelerant. God is the catalyst. God is the power that created heaven and earth. And in a holy instant, God can change your world. You have to get into the habit of calling on God. You have to get into the habit of calling in God. God, I let you in. Create a series of holy instants that my life becomes a holy constant. God, I let you in. Create within me, create through me, create as me. A series of holy instants so that my life becomes your holy constant. And when we continually manage our vibratory rate, and when we continually let God in, our worlds can change, and our worlds can change quite drastically. If you don't think your world can change quite drastically, ask yourself what happened between March 15th and March 17th, 2020. In 48 hours, your world changed drastically, right? So why couldn't your world change drastically when you let God in such a powerful way? Why couldn't your world change drastically? Because remember, God is the power that created heaven and earth. Here's an opportunity for another free message. With God, all things are possible. With God, all things are possible. So why would it not be possible that if you radically changed your thoughts, you could radically change your world? And here's another opportunity for a message. Greater is the power within you than is the power of the world. The world is simply an effect of your thinking. So the power within you to change, the power within you to heal, the power within you to know yourself as beloved of God, the power within you to remember your divinity, the power within you to remember your holiness is greater than the power of the world. Because remember, the world is only a reflection of what is within you. So when you change what is within you, the world outside of you must change. Greater is the power, that's in the Bible, just give you a hint. Greater is the power within you than is the power of the world. So, how do we do this constantly? And this is the crux of my message. How do we do this constantly? At the first sign of dissonance, before it has a chance to crystallize, at the first sign of dissonance, we say, God, I let you in. Let me see you differently. Let me see you present here. Let me feel your loving arms. Let me know your presence is near. Let me know you hold me dear. God, I let you in. And that brings you back to joy. At the first sign of doubt, God, I let you in. Let me know that you are here. Let me know that you are Let me know that you are here. Let me know that you still care. Let me know that you have my greatest good in mind when I don't know what's in my own best interests, and that you will lead me and guide me to my greatest good, for all things are lessons you would have me learn. At the first sign of fear, there is nothing to fear. God, I let you into this place within me that has fear. Fear is based on past energies, and the past is written in disappearing ink. So in this moment of now, God, I let you in. Cause me to remember that a happy outcome to all things is guaranteed, for all things work together for the good. And if it is not in its happy ending yet, then you are not done with it. So continue working with me, God. Continue healing me, God. Continue embracing me, God. Continue lifting me, God. God, I let you in. At the first hint of shame, God, I let you in. Cause me to remember that I am your beloved, perfect child, and I am perfect for your purpose. Cause me to feel your loving embrace, that I might embrace myself and allow you to embrace me, because your energy must reflect mine. So the point of all of this is, God, cause me to remember that after you created all you created, you looked upon me and said, and this is good. When God looked upon its world that it had created and said, and this is good, that included you. Make the choice that reflects that you are beloved of God. Make the choice that reflects God is with you, loving you, protecting you, supporting you, guiding you, lifting you, and providing you. Make the choice that, behold, I make all things new again, said God, that there is a new canvas upon which you can paint a new life with your new choices. Every micro choice is a brushstroke to a new canvas that you can paint with every micro choice. Every micro choice is a brushstroke on a canvas for a new life. What is the new life you desire? It is a life where you know and remember your divinity, your holiness, your deservingness, your fullness, your beauty, your power, and your grace. For that is how God created you. And let every choice reflect this. Let every choice be a brushstroke that creates a new picture of your life on this new canvas. Because God said, behold, I make all things new again. And this is how we can all choose joy instead of pain. And if you don't believe me, just realize that you did it 40 minutes ago and give thanks to God, just as I give thanks to God for delivering this message. Thank you, one and all. Everyone be blessed and in God.